So to the Friday night match, Cardiff at home to Wolves. Traore was in from the start, and Wolves made the early running, and on 17 minutes from a corner, a flicked header, and Doherty was at the far post to stab it in. That was 1-0. After that, Cardiff looked the better side, and they had a couple of chances either side of the break from Arter. The first, he hit a post. So we were into the second half, and on 64 minutes, Gunnarsson managed to equalise from 5 yards out after the goalkeeper, Patricio, failed to clear an up and under. Cardiff were well in the ascendancy now, and they were rewarded on 77 minutes when the ball was sort of cleared by the Wolves defence, but only as far as Hoylett, who hit it first time and bent it into the top corner. It was a fantastic strike, and it made Neil Warnock's 70th birthday today a much happier affair. Nuno Espirito Santo has got some work to do. This team seems to have lost all their confidence. Another defeat for Wolves. To the Etihad, and the champions were entertaining Bournemouth. Bournemouth on a bad run, lost the last three. Aguero was not selected. He's got a muscle strain, and David Silva was on the bench with Mahrez. City started in typical fashion, dominating possession, and Sane looking extremely dangerous. Following a chip ball over Bournemouth's back four, Sane was far too quick for the fullback. Bekovic reacted quickly and advanced and got something on the ball, but it came back for Bernardo Silva to swat it into the net. That was 1-0 on 15. Bournemouth rallied, and they were rewarded on the stroke of half-time when a strong header by Wilson hit the net with Ederson stationary. So it was 1-1 at the break. Second half, City, with Sterling more influential and Sane a constant threat, were causing more and more problems for the Bournemouth defence. Sterling nearly scored on 53 minutes when he went on a weaving a run across the penalty area, beat quite a few people, and his shot was blocked. But a few minutes later, he fed Danilo on the right, whose drive was parried out by Bekovic, and Sterling gobbled up the rebound from a couple of yards. So City back in front 2-1. This relaxed the champions, and the chances increased. On 74 minutes, though, Bournemouth had a penalty appeal turned away, which looked a good shout. But then 4 minutes later, Sane put the ball on a plate from Gunnarsson, and it was 3-1, game over. At St Mary's. Oh, well, where can you start? Jones was in defence. He was the only defender in defence by the look of it. I never saw any. Shaw, he was out. So was Smalling. And basically we had Fellini in and Montgomery. And it really showed because Southampton were out of the blocks. Armstrong scored an early goal, and then a tremendous free kick from Cedric, which De Gea had no chance from 30 yards, put Southampton 2 up inside 20 minutes. United were in complete disarray, losing possession quite easily. Pogba was one of the biggest culprits, but somehow through Marcus Rashford, who had made a few errors and got booked, but he kept on trying, the lad, and it was his persistence that managed to create a chance for Lukaku, who swallowed it up to hit home to make it 2-1. Then Rashford again, showing his strength, got to the byline, outpacing Yoshida, and his cross was turned in by Herrera, 2-2. That was all before the half-time break. The second half was less attractive on the eye, and it ended 2-2. About right, I would suggest. Crystal Palace at home to Burnley. Really, it was a match totally dominated by Palace, and MacArthur put them one up early on, and they remained dominant throughout. Sahara, with his tricks, was causing lots of problems for the Burnley defence. Hart was constantly in action to keep Palace out. Into the second half, there was even more pressure applied by Palace, and Sahar forced a great save on 48, and then he blasted over, and a third chance shortly after that. He'd also hit an upright, and it was fast becoming the Sahar show. But you got the feeling that if they didn't get a second, that Burnley might snatch a point. Well, it didn't happen. On 77 minutes, Townsend picked the ball up on the right flank, moved inside, and he hit an absolute thunderbolt with his left foot that screamed into the top left-hand corner. Hart didn't have a hope in hell in saving it, and in the end, a comfortable and deserved win for Crystal Palace, and Roy Hodgson was absolutely delighted. West Ham went to St James's Park to play Newcastle. Newcastle on the back of 3 wins in a row. However, once Hernandez, who was in from the start, Chico Jarito, once he got on the score sheet after 11 minutes, a typical poacher's goal on the 6-yard box. It was all uphill from there on from Newcastle. They did have a few chances, but they seemed to do their best to squander them. Hernandez added a second in the second half on 63, and he could have had 4. And then the icing on the cake, Anderson rounded it off in 93 minutes for a convincing 3-0 win for Pellegrini against Benitez's Magpies. So back to the drawing board for the Newcastle faithful. Huddersfield at the John Smith Stadium against Brighton. Well, Huddersfield, the home side, got off to a fantastic start when Jorgensen headed in after just 1 minute after a crazy overhead kick by Bruno, the defender, back into his own 6-yard area. Jorgensen out-jumped the defence, and the goalie was really not fully awake. So 1-0 behind, and Huddersfield then were on top as the half progressed, but then Steve Mounier managed to get himself sent off for a high challenge to the ankle with the studs, and ridiculously they were down to 10 men when they were in charge of the game. In the 4th minute of extra time in the first half, Duffy pounced to head in a cross from a corner kick, and so it was level at the break, 1-1. Brighton were now in the ascendancy. Laisel made a couple of good saves after the break, and then a nice cross from Solly March to Andoni on 69, and he glided his header in past the goalie for Brighton to head 2-1, and that's the way it finished. Huddersfield back to their losing ways. King Power Stadium. Leicester at home to Watford. That's 9th playing 10th, and Leicester got off to a good start. In the 12th minute, Vardy nicked in and was brought down by Foster and jumped up and took the penalty. 1-0 Leicester. On 23 minutes, another break by the Foxes. Vardy pushed the ball to Old Brighton on the right flank, and he crossed to Maddison, who sort of controlled the ball and juggled with it, and then hit it on the volley, and it flashed past the Watford keeper to make it 2-0. Later in the half, a breakaway and success for Watford managed to blast over when he had a great chance to pull one back. Into the second half, and it was fairly level, half chances up and down. Gray rattled the goal post, and there was a late red card for Kapoor for a nasty challenge, but in the end the Foxes coasted to a 2-0 win. First of the Sunday's derbies then, Chelsea at home to Fulham. Fulham were without Schürrle, and Giroud was in for Morata. Well, Fulham started well on the front foot, but then they got caught in possession by N'Golo Conte just inside their own half, and he rushed forward, edged the ball to Pedro on the right side of the penalty box. He coolly moved inside and placed the ball in the corner of the net. So Fulham were 1 down after 4 minutes. The game then settled into a pattern, really, with Chelsea possession and Fulham looking to counter. But Fulham actually grew into the game as the half went further, and certainly in the latter stages of the first half, they were giving as good as they were getting. There was a half chance for Giroud just before the break, neatly saved by Rico. But I have to have a word and mention Hazard. He really does look the full complement here. He glides over the turf like a sort of hovercraft on the water. He seems totally at ease, and his ability to change direction is quite superb. And he really is causing headaches constantly for the Chelsea defence and midfield. Let's see what happens in the second half. So Chelsea's Fulham's second half. Well, I was pretty disappointed with it, really. On 53 minutes, Kepa foiled a header from Chambers from a corner. Fulham were well in the match, and 10 minutes later, Kepa was there again to prevent a strike from Chambers. Morata came on for Giroud, and on 71 minutes, a clever piece of play by Hazard let him in, and he blasted over. His frustration was quite clear, but eventually Chelsea got their second on 81 from Loftus-Cheek after a neat passing movement involving Hazard, and that basically was it. 2-0 for Chelsea. A less than convincing performance from Chelsea, although obviously bouncing back from last week's defeat against Tottenham was the prime reason behind this win. They needed it and they got it. Fulham, well, their problems are quite clear. They just don't defend well, and without Schürrle to add to Mitrovic's threat, they looked a little bit soft in attack, to be honest. So lots of work for Ranieri. So to the Emirates then. The second derby of the day, Arsenal at home to Spurs. It was a real humdinger of a match at the Emirates. An early goal for the Gunners when Vertonghen mysteriously handled when challenging Mustafi from a free kick. The handball was spotted and Aubameyang obliged with a cool penalty. Spurs were being outgunned, and it took almost 20 minutes or so before they really started to play with any authority. By then, Arsenal should have been more than one up. Anyway, on 29 minutes, free kick, Eriksen flicked in the cross to the near post, and Dyer was there, who got a connection with his head, and it went in. I must admit, the goalkeeper Leno looked a little bit slow, but it was 1-1. Dyer and his teammates celebrated near the area where Arsenal's substitutes were warming up, and it caused a rather unsavoury scene, which held up play for a couple of minutes. It got worse for Arsenal a few minutes later when Song ran clear, raced into the box, and Holding came across and had the faintest of clips on his ankle. Son went down and the referee awarded a penalty. Kane, of course, strolled up and took the spot kick, and that was it, 2-1. Complete turnaround in this game. Now to second half action, it continued at a hectic pace, really great on the eye. Great atmosphere as well. You could hear the crowd really roaring. Lacazette and Ramsey replaced Iwobi and Mkhitaryan, and on 55 minutes, an absolute gem of a goal, instinctive from Aubameyang, as he hit a pass from Ramsey, and it went straight in the corner. Lloris was rooted to the spot. Arsenal were now on top, but Spurs still dangerous with a snapshot from Son. Anyway, Lacazette made his mark on 73 minutes. He got the ball just outside the box, seemed to fumble with it, but created half a yard of space, and he hit the ball with his left foot. It looked a tame effort, but somehow it squeezed into the corner, and one wonders what Lloris was doing. However, on replay, it was clear that there was a slight deflection of Dyer, which may well have caused the Frenchman to react slowly. Anyway, on we went. Now Spurs were chasing the game, and they conceded again when Pereira, from a tight angle, rocketed the ball past Lloris. So that was it, 4-2. Vertonghen got a late yellow, which meant he had an early bath. A tremendous performance by Arsenal, and now ahead of Spurs on goal difference in fourth. So to the final fixture of the weekend, Anfield, the Merseyside derby between Liverpool and Everton. Henderson was suspended and Milner was on the bench. There was a start for Fabinho, who I don't know. Anyway, it was a well-matched contest. Liverpool had more possession early on, although an early chance in the 4th minute went to the Colombian Mina for Everton. He should have scored. He was only 6 yards out. Mane had a number of chances in that first half, but really failed to test Pickford. Shaqiri was also probing well, and he had a chance which was parried away by the England keeper. Then on 20 minutes, Alisson at the other end produced a miraculous save from Gomez, pushing his point-blank header onto the post, and Gomez cleared. So it was goalless at the break. The second half was quieter, but it still looked like it was a good game on the eye. However, we headed towards the final whistle. 5th minute of stoppage time. A free kick inside Liverpool's half. Alisson pushed it out to Arnold, Arnold hoisted the ball into the area. It was cleared, and Van Dijk on the edge of the box inadvertently kicked the ball skywards, and it looked like it was going to come back over the bar. But Pickford, panicking, tried to help it over, and unfortunately he helped the ball hit the bar, and then the ball came back into play, and Origi, on as a sub, was there to head it in. Amazingly, Liverpool had snatched the win in the 5th minute of added time. And the reaction was absolutely like bedlam. Klopp charged onto the pitch to celebrate, and Pickford seemed like he wanted to disappear into the ground. So anyway, Liverpool are on the tailcoats of City. They maintain their 2-point deficit. Terribly unlucky for Everton, who had a solid game. Liverpool 1-0. So that's the show anyway for this week, week 14. My goal of the week, I'm going to give it to Aubameyang for his second goal, the equalising goal against Spurs. And just a reminder, there will be a show in the week. We've got a full programme of Premier League this coming Wednesday. So you'll have another show on Thursday. Look forward to it.